All right, my friends, we are live for another episode of Marketing Without Rules, and I am excited to have Jim Clouk in the house tonight. Jim, welcome.
Lewis, it's great to be here. Thank you for allowing me to join you. I'm excited.
This is going to be a fun one, and I think right from the rip, uh, the title of it tells people kind of the perspective that we're going into this. We're going to get into how radio doesn't work in many cases, and we're going to
Mm.
talk with Jim about how you can make it work. But Jim, before we do that, can you give people a snapshot of how you got to be sitting in this seat? Yeah, that's a funny way to say it. A snapshot of your life up till now. A little bit of background of
It's
yourself.
a pretty wide shot. Gosh, I started doing radio back when I was 18. So since we're talking about radio today, why don't we start there? I was in college, started doing radio, not like I do today, but spinning tunes. So
Yeah,
played
DJing.
back, yeah, back in the day, Madonna, Cyndi Lauper, Bruce Springsteen. Some of these people are still around, I guess. Elton John. They were big back then. I guess some of them pretty big today. Billy Joel, Huey Lewis and the News, that type of stuff. And
Yeah,
so I've been using a microphone like this for many decades. And over the years, I've spent a lot of time helping home service professionals gain authority and credibility and get their phone to ring through radio originally. And actually now we do videos and podcasts as well for those who don't want to go down radio. Because I'll tell you something, Lewis, a lot of people think that radio was for their grandfather or their grandmother. Um, may be true. There are still some grandparents listening to radio, and those are really, really good customers for the electricians, the plumbers, the HVAC guys, the roofers. And I wouldn't discount radio.
love it, love it. And we're going to get into why you shouldn't discount it, but why. Well, I'll tell you my experience and why I was
Mm.
so excited when I saw you come across, our mutual friends. I can't even remember how we connected, but earlier this year, you and I connected around, my. I actually saw you in a group that we're both a part of. It might have been in
Mhm.
Tommy Mello's group. I saw you doing some stuff with him. I'd had Tommy Mello on, and I
Oh.
and I crept to your profile and I saw you doing a clip with him about how you were doing direct response radio. And I was like, this is really interesting because when I started Integrity Junk Removal back in 2021, I looked heavily into radio. Obviously, my strong suit was SEO and websites. And so I knew that I could make that work. But I did look at radio and I just couldn't make the numbers make sense.
Yeah.
They really couldn't tell me anything that, direct response really they couldn't tell me what the return on investment was. It was just like, oh, you're going to hit everybody, and it's like, well, is this the right people? Is
Mm.
it going to do anything? And so I had really run it through the ringer there, and set it
Mhm.
aside saying, this really doesn't make sense. It's not a good use of my money when I could put it into more pages on my website or some more backlinks or something. And then I'd seen your conversation with Tommy and I was like, this is really interesting. Reached out. You and I have chatted a couple times since then. Really intriguing what you do, and so I'm excited to bring that to people tonight because there's a way to spin every platform, and this is another proof of it. I've said that before, and radio's always kind of been like, I don't know, but
Mhm.
watching what you do, I see that there is a way to do that. So could you maybe let's just dive right into it and
Sure.
share the goods with people. Like, what is direct response radio, and how do you do that for people?
Sure. And before I answer that question, answer this question for me, Lewis. Have you spent any money on radio, or did you make a decision in your head or on paper before you spent money not to go down that road?
Great question. I have not spent money on
Yeah.
radio. So I
Okay.
had researched it, I had looked into it, and I just couldn't make I didn't have the assurance that it was a worthwhile spend when we were starting up our business, our
Yeah.
local service business here.
Yeah. And direct response radio is what I do specifically. I'll explain in a moment what that is. Radio is not for everybody. It
Yeah.
is not for a small company looking for inexpensive leads. I like to say it's for the big boys. You don't have to be a huge company. You just have to be prepared for the investment, not just in dollars, but also in the messaging. So many people waste money on radio. They'll buy 30 and 60-second spots.
That's what I wanted to clarify right
Yeah.
from the get-go here. So what we're going to be talking about is very different than those 30, 60-second slots. So maybe you could
Yep.
lay out what most people buy and why that
Sure.
doesn't work, and then we can roll into that.
So most people buy a 30 or 60-second commercial. On TV, they're often 30 seconds. In radio, they're generally 30s, sometimes 60s, sometimes 15. We do long form. Long form is just about an hour long. It's about 54 minutes long. So it's a long form show. And I call it a show. It is an advertisement. It's like an infomercial,
Mhm.
but it is disguised very well as a home improvement radio show. And it works really well for home service companies that have more than a service to sell. So if you're a plumber, we don't want to talk about when it's time to fix that leak, call us. It's more going to be, let's talk about how we can help the quality of your water in your house. So today I have Frank from ABC Plumbing on the program, and he's brought a deal for you. And so the way it works is the deal is going to be a price on the product and then the discounted price and then something for free. So it goes something like this. Okay. So I have the home service professional. He's the expert. We're talking on the radio, and I say, the first 10 callers today are going to be able to get better water for their home. Okay. It's going to be softer water. It's going to taste better. There's a reverse osmosis piece, and there's also a water softener piece. The hard water in your area is hard. And we go through all the facts. And when people are driving around in their cars and trucks listening to the radio, they're like, yeah, yeah, yeah. We do have dirty glasses when they come out of the dishwasher. The water heaters had to be replaced 3 times in 10 years because of sediment and all this stuff. So the homeowner understands this. Today, ABC Company is only going to take 10 calls to get a free water test. So now the homeowner is obligating to call to get a free water test. If you need a new water softener, it's only going to cost $39.99.95, whatever, okay? Just under $4,000. Oh, but wait, there is a discount today. Thanks for bringing that to the show, so-and-so. We appreciate that. So do our listeners. And a free year of salt, that's awesome. So everyone who calls, 10 callers only, are going to, so it's like the infomercial you've seen on TV for the blender or the exercise equipment. It sounds cheesy. You know it works because we keep seeing these ads on TV. We do it on radio. It's direct response, which means your phone is going to ring right now as that plumber, as that HVAC company, as the water softener company, whatever. It's going to ring now. That call is not a, well, I'm thinking. It is, I'm booking an appointment. Remember, there's only 10 appointments. You're going to get a free water test, and a technician is going to come out. What's really cool about this, Lewis, is the qualification part. In the formula, the homeowner who's listening already knows how much it costs. They are qualifying themselves. How many times has someone gone out to the house to find out that the homeowner can't afford it?
Yeah.
So we say 10 callers. If 30 call, big deal. They don't know that. You have to have a defined amount of everything.
You have to have some sort of scarcity.
Scarcity. Exactly. You have to have a regular price, a deal price, and something for free. Free salt, a deal price on the original price of a water softener. And I've done this with water softener companies, like 3 or 4 companies before. The water softener, discounted price, a free reverse osmosis drinking system for your sink,
That's
and
like
a free
500
year of
value,
salt.
easy.
Yeah. So there's enough profit built in to the water softener. Often they'll upsell anyway and sell them a $6,000 water softener. So here's what's important. This is what I tell my clients all the time. I will get your technician / salesperson in the house. You have to close all the way. You're going to give a free water test. You're giving these other items for free and the deal price, but you guys have to close because the phone will ring. It'll ring day one too. It'll ring immediately. And I'll tell you why. So I do this all over the country. People are like, well, okay, Jim, You're in Houston, Texas. I'm in Las Vegas. How do you know the phone's going to ring immediately? Because it's not me, it's the loyalty to the radio station. Understand this demographic, Lewis, they're 45 years old to 65, 70 years old. Many are empty nested. They're loyal to the station. Most stations we use are conservative talk radio stations. These people are
They
like,
listen all day, every day.
they listen all day and they listen religiously. Conservative talk, generally, Christian conservative talk listeners. These people have money, often a paid for house. It might not be a huge house. They still need clean, soft water. They still need an HVAC system to work. They still need a roof. They don't have kids at home anymore. They have money and they will spend it. And so that's why as soon as we turn this radio show on in your marketplace, it takes off day one. I will say week after week, because we play this every week. So we might get a time slot, a Saturday at 1 p.m. in, any given market, or Sunday at 11.
Do you pre-record the show then? And then
we pre-record the programs and we edit the programs. So they're
it's
well
really nice
produced,
and tight and works well.
Nice and tight. We get it to the radio station the way the radio station needs it. We basically dictate to the radio station the format. I've been doing this for many decades. I won't tell you how long, a long time.
That's the second time you said
that. Since 1941. I'm kidding. Long time ago. And
day over 25, Jim.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate that. And so I know what needs to be done. A lot of radio stations will say, well, we need to do this. No. This is the program. It's 53 minutes and 50 seconds long. You will take it and you will play it. And that's kind of the advantage also that these home service companies get, Lewis, is my experience. I help with the radio station piece because that's one of the biggest issues is I don't know anything about radio. How do I get it on the air? I help with that. And then also the production of it. It's really next to impossible for a plumber or an electrician to do this themselves because they don't understand radio. They don't understand the pitch part. I call myself the radio pitchman. A pitchman, as most of us know, is a salesman, and a pitchman is one that's pretty good at spinning everything and then getting someone to act.
What was that TV show? It was like QVC, right? Like where they're running through
they're pitchmen. Yeah. And anyone on any type of infomercial, they're pitching a product generally, often not a service. It's usually a product. Like I said, it's really hard for a service because no one knows when they're going to have a problem with their breaker panel or their plumbing or their AC. But if it's a specific product, now we can really drill down. It could be it could be air purification. I mean, I've even sold HVAC systems, like the whole system. Now, the volume of those are going to be less, but obviously the ticket's higher. And so it's to me, it's simple. There are a lot of moving parts, but that's where I come in and my team, and we know how to do this. It really sets you apart. So here's what I love to tell people about direct response radio. You get something for free that's very valuable, and that is branding. The direct response radio program that's almost 1 hour long will be very profitable just from the phone calls coming in for the appointments that you're going to close as the home service professional. At the same time, we're saying ABC Plumbing, call ABC Plumbing. For the whole hour, we're giving out the brand. We're talking about the person on the radio who's almost always the owner. And if not, we make sure they have a high position, or we tell the listener they're a high position, because people want to deal with people at that level. Quite often, the homeowner will ask that technician or salesperson who comes out to the house, hey, is that so-and-so the owner? And they're like, oh, no, he couldn't make it, because people buy from people, right? So they get to know you, your culture. And there's so many pieces to it. I talk a little bit about it in this book, which is the radio into the podcast world. And a lot of that's the same. I'm actually working on my Radio Pitchman book, which is deeper and it really goes into this art It's a science. It's
Yeah.
not like buying a 30 or 60. We talked about that. Someone will buy 30 and 60-second commercials. Maybe it's an HVAC company, and they're going to do this June, July, August, and September, the hottest months of the year. And they're going to say, call Acme when your air conditioning craps out on you. Call, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. Who crafted that? The salesperson at the radio station? And what do you know as an HVAC company how to craft that? And it's only 30 seconds long. A lot of companies will take advantage of radio in 30s and 60s for branding. That's great if you don't need the phone to ring today. If you're already moving along, if you're a big company, McDonald's, Coca-Cola, right? You can just buy spots and brand all day long. But most of my clients aren't known that well in their marketplace. So we need to get the phone to ring today. And I could talk about this forever because it is a love of mine. I've been doing it for decades, and it is an art. And there are some people who do this, but no one who does it that I know of in home service. I've been working with home service clients for 20 years. I started in 2005 in the home service side. I've been doing radio longer.
Yeah.
And I put the two together, and it's exciting. It's fun. You brought up Tommy Mello. We actually do it for one of Tommy's companies, Garage Door Doctor in Houston, Texas. Actually, it's one of the A1 companies that was recently brought into the mix a year and a half ago, I guess. And we're on 2 radio stations every week in Houston. One station airs it at 12 noon. The other one does it at 1 p.m. So they're kind of back to back on different stations, both conservative talk radio stations, which means that listener goes from station to station because it's the same theme, right?
Yeah.
Conservative talk. And we repeat it over and over again. Now, some people ask, how often do you refresh the content? It depends. Sometimes frequently. We've sometimes gone months without changing it.
So
It
every week
doesn't-
you're running the same 53-minute slot.
until we change it. So sometimes we'll have 3 or 4 that we rotate,
Yep.
but honestly, it really doesn't matter. How many times have you seen a message or heard a message before? We see it online on, Facebook or Instagram, on YouTube, on television. We're like, we've seen that commercial. We've seen that commercial. I know it's going to happen. We've seen the commercial. It's the same thing. But I'll tell you something interesting about radio. You may not know this. This is kind of cool. People tune in and out of radio stations every 7 minutes.
That makes sense. Yeah, every couple songs.
Every 7 minutes.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to talk radio, they'll often listen longer, but they may tune out and then come back in again. So we give out the phone number probably 50 to 60 times in that hour.
That's every
We're
minute.
always giving it out, and we're always bringing that number from 10. Oh, there's only 8 left. 2 left. You better call now. The show is ending. And that's when most of the calls come in.
That's cool.
You know what? It's kind of like a football game. Last 2 minutes is crazy.
Yeah.
Right?
That's
That's when it all happens.
Jim, hold your book up again so that people can see that, and then I'll read out the title there as well. So it's the Radio Pitchman's podcast
playbook. Yeah.
Podcast playbook. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. I'll link that in the show notes as well. But I wanted to shout that out for people who are listening only.
Yeah. And if someone wants to learn more, if they want to reach me, Facebook is a great way. Jim Klauck. My name's up on the screen. Also, Jim at theradiopitchman.com. It's easy. Just Google me. You can't miss me. One nice thing about having my name is there aren't many people with it. So that is
pretty
yeah,
unique
yeah.
name. So
that's one blessing.
So let's go through the process here. I really appreciate you laying this out because I just find it fascinating, and it's like pulling an old concept to a modern application. Really, it's kind of an old platform too, radio. And it's still around. It may not be as popular as it was, but those people that are listening to those talk shows, they are the modern generation who's tuning into Joe Rogan for 5 hours. It's the same with the older generation that still they're going to their talk show that they've been listening to for 20 years, and they're just going to stick around and listen and call. So let's have Bob the Builder he comes to you and he says,
Mhm.
"Okay, Jim, I'm ready to go. I would like to do a direct response radio campaign with you." What
Sure.
are the steps that he goes through with you?
Well, first of all, I need to tell Bob the builder what it costs. He
Yep.
wants to know. I don't know. I know one side of the cost, which is our production cost. Radio, we don't own radio, right? So we basically lease space. We help them find the radio station and get the right station, the right time, and therefore the pricing. So that's the tricky part because everybody wants to know what something costs.
Hmm.
It's not like a website or SEO or buying Facebook ads that's more defined. This is not until you find that slot. So I wanted to make that clear. So once we determine that they can afford it and so to give you a rough price, you're looking at probably $1,000 a week
Yeah.
minimum.
Okay.
Minimum. All right. Remember, you're not getting leads, you're getting appointments. Totally different. There's nothing like this. Um, there's actually a video out there. It may be the one that you saw with Tommy Mello, and he's like, Jim, you're right. It is the best thing. Like out of everything he does, it is the single best thing.
And to
If
give people some background on Tommy, so Tommy's on track to be $1 billion garage door company. He
Mhm.
has tested and tried a ton of different marketing methods, and he tracks everything too. So that just to give some weight behind what you just
Yeah,
said.
yeah, he has almost $250 million garage door company based in Phoenix with divisions all over the country. And it's interesting though, because everyone dives into the same pond, which is digital.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, why would you want to be where everybody else is? I mean, the competition's higher.
Yep.
And in order for you to beat everyone, you just have to outspend them. But if you spend smart on radio, where part of your demographic could be there, and arguably, or no one argues this, 45 to 65 is really what all home service companies are looking for. They're not looking for 25 to 35. They're not looking 18 to 30, right? Um, and there's a lot of people in that segment. So here's what's really fun. Over time, radio is the only medium that has not changed. Even TV has changed. So today, you can't use a TV over the air or even actually plugged into some kind of box from 1989 because it went digital. Even, gosh, I think 10 years ago or something. Anything prior to that won't work. In my studio, on the other side of my camera, I have an RCA radio built in 1930. It is a wood boxed radio. It is in pristine condition. It takes a while to warm up because it's got vacuum tubes in it.
That's amazing.
I can still listen to something that's on the air right now. Radio is a cockroach. It doesn't die. We thought it was going to. It hasn't. And there's a number of reasons for that. But it's a good sign that most car manufacturers are still putting AM and FM radios in vehicles. It is still one of the primary ways that the US government can communicate with its people. That's one reason why it's so controlled by the government. The Federal Communications Commission has all kinds of rules. You can't say things that you can online on the radio. But when there's emergencies, you will hear this. It's often this is a test of the emergency broadcasting system. That's always been something the government wanted to be able to do. Things are changing now with mobile technology and so forth, and it's not as important. So in any case, the government's behind it. A lot of people, my generation and before, grew up with radio.
Yeah.
We didn't have the internet. I mean, it was coming in when I was graduating from college, no joke. And it's hard to think of a time where you got all your information from newspapers, radio, and television. Here's what's really cool about that too. People who are my age and older, which is an ideal demographic for contractors.
Very ideal.
When these older people listen to the radio and they hear me on the radio with the contractor talking about this great offer, they automatically believe there's authority there, because always the person on the radio or TV was someone of authority. You could not buy your way onto the radio years ago. You can today. It's a different time because the radio stations don't want to pay employees. They want people like me to bring programming to them. The listener doesn't know that. When I'm on the radio, they think that I'm part of the radio station.
You're sitting in the studio there with
in the studio.
DJ, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. By the way, many radio studios are dark now because the shows either come in through satellite, internet, that type of thing. Yeah. The listener doesn't really think much about that. That's why we have such credibility and authority, because we're on the freaking radio. And it was a really big thing when I was young. If you met someone who was on the radio, they were a star. They were a radio star.
Yeah.
And many, many, many early TV stars came from radio back in the 40s. All right. So in the 30s and 40s, they were coming into TV and they came from radio. It was a big deal. For the older set, it's still a pretty big deal. In 10, 20 years, this conversation may not work. Today, it's the perfect storm. We are so well positioned. I say we, my organization and the home service professional, the contractor, because you can still squeeze this fruit and get great juice out of it. Remember, Lewis, this is not a lead. This is an appointment for the specific thing you're selling. Not a, well, come on out and take a look at the project. You are the project. You have the water softener. You have the reverse osmosis system. You know the project, okay? You know it's going to go into most houses or garages or just outside. You know how to install this thing versus come on out and give me a quote on painting my house. Huh? You don't know. This is a specific product, much like the blender or the exercise equipment. They know what the product costs. They know, what it costs to ship and so forth, and they can back into a price. That's why it's important to have a product. And here's what's cool also. If you're a plumber, you get in the door literally with the water softener, with the reverse osmosis water treatment. Now you have a customer for life for other things. If you are a plumber, electrician, and HVAC company, the trifecta, well, even better. It doesn't matter how you get in now, but get in with the product. Doesn't have to be expensive either, because you want to get a new customer and basically wow them. I'll get the phone to ring. I'll get you into the house. You need to close it.
You make the profit on the first sale, and then it's gravy from there.
Absolutely.
Really interesting. What are some of the things? It's kind of piqued my interest here. What are some of the things that you can't say on radio? Is it mainly swearing?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Just because kids could be listening in and something just playing in the background.
Yes. So it really came down hard recently. I say recently. Gosh, it was the Janet Jackson issue at the Super Bowl. Do you remember years ago? She exposed a breast. It was
I remember hearing about it.
Justin Timberlake and Janet Jackson were doing a deal up on stage. Some say it was on purpose, some say it wasn't. And I'm pretty sure it was CBS who was broadcasting, because they're the ones that got banged with a fine. I'm almost positive. But anyway, that's the most recent biggest issue where they clamped down again on things. Now that was television, but it's all the same thing as the FCC. You can't get on the radio and you can't drop the F-bomb. Now here's what's cool. Live radio, there's something called a dump button. So every station can't broadcast live. 7-second delay. So if you're looking at someone talking in the air studio, you're listening to the air and you're watching them, the lips don't match. 7-second delay. You can actually press a button after someone says something wrong and it will never hit the air.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So it like takes the train off the track for a second and then brings it back on.
Exactly. Now, if you don't press the button, it will go over the air, but you have a chance to, like AI. Now maybe AI will now do it where it listens and says, hey, we're going to automatically dump it. Don't know. Radio is still an antique. A lot of the people who work in the radio industry are older people. It's really interesting. It's kind of an antique. But the beautiful thing is it's got a great loyal listening audience that needs your product and services. And these people have money. They're not in the thick of things. They're not in true midlife 30s and 40s. They're in later midlife 50s, 60s, and 70s. They're in their forever home. They're there a lot because many are retired. They want clean water. They want a cool house. They want the roof not to leak. And they get a pension either in Social Security or a pension from a company, or maybe they're sitting on a couple $1 million from the money they saved in their 401k, and they're going to spend it on their home.
Yeah, it's a big deal. Now, we're talking about radio, but you're doing the same concept digitally, which I think is really cool that you're kind of bridging over. It's a very the concept of what you're doing transfers well to digital as well. Talk to the listeners about that side of things.
Sure. So it's the same thing, but it's not. So picture this. We record on Zoom, so it looks much like what you and I are doing. Okay, so it's not just audio, it is video now, but it is not direct response. This is more of an authority and credibility play. All right. It is less expensive than radio. So that's the good news. And you can put it on multiple platforms, which we do. So what our team does is we'll put it on your social media for you, our social media and your social media. We also put it on Audible and Spotify and Amazon Podcast, Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio. So it's out there. Plus all those digital assets you as the company, the home service professional, get to use as well. And we break them up into reels and shorts, and we do all that.
The other cool thing that you do, which you may be getting to, is that you basically set up a website for them. So you'll buy a domain and set up a place where you dump all of these podcasts, the RSS feed, the videos, and everything, which actually can rank and can rank for their brand and can rank for the business owner and everything. It's cool. We were looking into that one of the times we chatted.
Absolutely. Thanks for bringing that up. So for all of our member clients, we build another website. It's a podcast website. It's designed to distribute I'll back up. It's a shorter message. So these are 5 to 6 minute videos. Okay. And so the podcast site we build is designed to distribute to the Amazons and the iHeartRadios and the Apple Podcasts. Getting back to the 5 to 6 minute videos, we use a system called They Ask You Answer. Did we talk about this before, Lewis?
I think we did. Yeah. I'm going to pull my book down too.
This book written by Marcus Sheridan.
Big fan of it. Yeah.
Okay. And if you want to learn more about what we do with his system, go to YouTube and type in Marcus Sheridan, Jim Clouk, and you'll see me interview him. So quickly here, Marcus Sheridan, back in 2009, was having a huge issue with his swimming pool company. There was a banking crisis in the United States. Well, all over the place, but it was really bad. And his company was going out of business. So he started experimenting very quickly with blogs and videos. And he came up with this system, Lewis, called They Ask You Answer, which you're familiar with, which is frequently asked questions answered by an expert. So they ask is the homeowner asking a frequently asked question and you, the authority, answering it. So on these podcasts that we do, which are 5 to 6 minutes long, I ask a frequently asked question to the plumber, to the HVAC guy, to the electrician, to the roofer. They're specific questions. So a question for a plumber, Lewis, could be, what's the difference between a tank and a tankless water heater? That's a legitimate question the homeowner might ask. Those are going to start ranking on Google. So when people type that in, it's going to show up. Also, we embed those questions on your website. So instead of just a static FAQ page where you just have text, people can actually see the question, click on it, and see you, the contractor, talking to me. I play kind of dumb asking the question, so, Mr. Plumber, what's the difference between that tank and the tankless? And you, the expert contractor plumber, give the answer. So you have credibility, you have authority, they know what you look like, they know your company culture, and they're going to engage with you before your competition on the web because they, your competition, do not have these videos.
Yeah, it's huge. I'm a huge fan of Marcus Sheridan's work, and I love that you're putting that together because people have questions. We live in an Amazon age,
Mhm.
and they want their questions answered before they reach out to you, before they get sold, right? They want to look at others' experience. They want to, and if they can talk to the owner without talking to them, that 24/7 salesperson there on a website, that is so powerful. Such a powerful thing. And I'll reiterate that you guys actually put together, you buy a domain, you set up a website for your clients, and
Mhm.
then all of this stuff just gets put on there: text, video, audio, and Google loves all of that, and it all links back and meshes with whatever that business is doing with their current website. Like I think we looked at a couple where your website that you put together was ranking better than the business's website for a couple terms because they weren't, paying attention to their actual website, but
Yeah.
Jim was over here crushing it and funneling leads over.
Yeah, so we optimize the podcast. We call it a podcast site, but it's a website specifically for podcasts. And I don't want to confuse our member clients with, wait, we have a website. No, that's fine. You have a website. We actually emulate that, and we build this website designed for podcasts. And so we optimize it. A lot of people haven't optimized their website. So we're going to beat out your original one in some instances. Here's what's also really cool. God forbid that your site goes down, your main one. Chances are the one we built is still up. It has your phone number. It has everything. It actually, in many cases, has more than your website because that's where all the goods are, the digital assets. And so it's kind of like having redundant. Well, it's a redundant website. It's not identical to yours, but it's a good website that's optimized and well respected by Google. And what I mean by it's so important that Google respects what you're putting out there, otherwise you don't show up.
Yeah.
And
You're basically earning the authority that Google is going to eventually give to you, and it's because you're answering questions, you're doing the things that Google wants to see to keep people on their platform.
Yep. Marketing companies and SEO companies, the ones that also place your social media online, they love us because they love content. It's
Yeah.
often hard to get video content out of a contractor. Someone's going to have to go out there and shoot it, or the contractor's going to have to shoot it, and it doesn't get done. What's nice about what we do, this is mind blowing. Listen to this. This is crazy. If you have 45 minutes a quarter, 45 minutes in 3 months, we can get enough content that'll blow your socks off. Now, if you want to do more, it's fine. The reason why I say that is I don't want people to think, my gosh, I don't have time for this. You don't need time. We
Yeah, you
are
just gotta
very
hop on
efficient.
with Jim, and he asks you the
Yep.
questions, and boom, you're done.
Yeah. So these are 5-minute questions that you answer, boom, boom, boom. And then we cut those up, reels and shorts, and they're going out on YouTube. They're going on your Facebook and social media and all these different touches. We can repurpose and slice and dice things. But if you want more, fine. I'm just saying you don't need to spend a lot of time on this. One of the things, Lewis, people get hung up on is I don't know what to say. Don't worry. That's my job. I don't have the time. Don't worry. You don't need time. I don't know how to do it. How do I get it on the web? I'm a plumber. I turn wrenches. Not a problem. I know what you do. I know the questions to ask you. I even know the answers, but I can't answer them because you have to.
Yeah.
And it's really a gem, both the direct response radio and doing the radio online are both great. Now, here's what's really cool. If you do direct response radio with us, you get the byproduct of that recording, those hour-long recordings. So we'll do it on Zoom, right? So we have all this video. So you kind of get both. You get more when you buy the radio piece because we
Sure.
have all this stuff.
You're doing the whole deal.
Yep. So once again, direct response radio will make your phone ring right now. The online video piece on the podcast, it's more of a credibility and authority play, which really helps you though. So some people say, well, how else can I use this? This is really, really fun. So let's say one of your salespeople are out at the house. Let's say you're an HVAC company, 3 and 5 ton unit. That's what the homeowner needs. They've been told that by 3 other companies. So you're company number 4. Pricing's close, reviews close. I mean, what's the difference, right? You're all the same. Here's what's going to put you over the top. You say to Mr. and Mrs. Smith, who have to make a decision out of the 4 bids, would you mind if I bring up on my iPad an interview that the owner did with this guy, Jim Clark, also known as Checker Pro Joe on the Checker Pro radio show. They talked about the install of a 3 and 5 ton unit. It's different. You get to see the owner talking
That
with
authority
me,
piece.
the authority piece. That could set that $40,000 opportunity over the fence. What makes you different? That could help. So there's an SEO play a bit as well. We didn't really talk about that. There's the social media play of it. There's the authority and credibility play. And all of those are important. Now, the SEO play, there's a little bit there. We put backlinks that go from Apple Podcasts and from Amazon and so forth back to your main website. And there's also the authority you get with reputation SEO, right? So people are typing in your company name. Let's say they heard about you, ABC Plumbing Company, and they see Amazon come up and Apple and iHeartRadio with your face and a video. They're like, they're on some big names.
Yeah.
So it's helpful.
And Google pays attention to that too. Well, if this isn't marketing without rules, I don't know what is. I was excited for this conversation, Jim. And I think the coolest part for me, and I hope listeners took away some nuggets here, is that it's an old platform. Radio, for all intents and purposes, most people write it off and consider it, out of date or not useful or not effective, which it usually isn't if you do it just the 30, 60-second clips. But if you run a direct response campaign, you are hitting people who are ready to buy. You're hitting people who are, there, loyal to the station, hanging out, and you're hitting below the belt. Where a lot of people can't. I don't know if that was the right expression, but you're coloring outside the lines in a way that a lot of people aren't, and you're catching people that aren't necessarily going on Google or weren't necessarily going to buy, but they hear your offer. You get in the door. You've got an appointment. You can now upsell them. You've got a customer for life. Very cool.
You got it. You got it perfectly.
I love it. Well, guys, hope you found some value out of this. Jim, thank you so much for coming on and bringing your decades of radio experience to a modern take on marketing. I think there's a really cool thing here. And don't forget, guys, the content piece that Jim does as well. Reach out to him if you haven't. I'll have his website in the show notes as well. You can find him, Google his name. It's pretty easy to find him, a pretty SEO friendly name. Not many Jim Clarks out there. But get out there, think different, color outside the lines, look at what you're doing for marketing, and look at how you can be different in your market. So, Jim, thank you so much. Everyone that tuned in, thank you. And we will wrap up. Jim, hang out off air for a second, and we'll see everyone listening next time. Talk soon.
Thank you, Lewis. Great job. Thank you.